Hey guys, we're back, and today we are going to go through our all MLB team from the 1980s, and we're going to go through position by position, let you know who we decided is the best of the best from the 1980s decade, and we're going to also show off each player's rookie card. So let's jump right into it. We're going to jump in, and we're going to start off today with the starters and the relievers. So to get it started, we are going to start out with the rotation and our relievers. And Omar and I went through first with our relievers. We need to have Mr. Goose Gossage in the bullpen. This is his 1973 Topps rookie card. And just to get an idea as to some of the values that are out there, we looked at some eBay solds from March through April and of this year. And you could see that Mr. Goose Gossage has about $114 value going for a PSA 8. But no, undoubtedly one of the most dominant relievers of the 1980s. And that is exactly why we decided to make sure he was in our bullpen.
I'm on Baseball Reference right now and looking at his stats, and you can see that he had a career 41.2 WAR, 310 saves. He made 9 All-Star appearances, 1978 World Series champion. So he definitely has the hardware to back that up.
Yeah, here he's in the Chicago White Sox uniform, obviously as a rookie, but I know he had a lot of memorable moments as a New York Yankee. So no doubt one of the great relievers of the 80s and really all time. He's a Hall of Famer. So we are starting out our bullpen with Mr. Goose Gossage. We need another reliever, though. That is going to be Mr. Lee Smith. This is his 1982 Fleer rookie card. You could see here in a PSA 8, Mr. Smith's rookie card goes for about $72 or so. But still another dominant reliever, had real longevity also in his career. And we wanted to make sure we got Mr. Lee Smith in our bullpen to help us shut down the end of the games.
Yeah, he had a respectable career. I think that there was a little controversy with him getting in the Hall, though. People felt like his numbers weren't great. And again, I'm looking, he has a 28.9 WAR, which isn't that strong. 7-time All-Star and a 3.03 ERA. So the ERA is fair, but again, there was a little bit of controversy with that. But all in all, I think he's a pretty damn good reliever.
Yeah, definitely solid. I mean, what we'll do too is if you stay to the end, we also will give you our list of honorable mentions for starters, relievers, and all of our position players. So stay tuned for that. But we felt like these two were going to be the upper echelons, at least for the 80s. So remember that we're looking at 1980 all the way through 1989. So within that sample size, these are the two we're going to have in our bullpen. So please let us know in the comments who you think also should be in the bullpen, even if we're missing them in our honorable mentions. Next up, we got to have some arms in the starting rotation, right?
Yes. Let's see what we got.
So we are going to start out with none other than Mr. Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, that's an easy one. That's a shoe-in right there.
That's a shoe-in. That's a shoe-in right there. Yeah. Not to be confused with Jerry Koosman.
Who's Fabio?
On his rookie card. So this is one of the famous rookie cards, 1968 Topps. Can go for a really sizable amount. Took a look at a recent comp at a PSA 8. This Nolan Ryan rookie card sold for nearly $7,500.
Crazy. It's crazy. I mean, look, Nolan Ryan, he had an 81.3 WAR. He, obviously strikeouts over 5,300. He had 8 All-Stars, 2 ERA titles, a 1969 World Series. But what's funny about Nolan Ryan is that I've read chats and different discussions, and people actually say he was overrated. They say that he was a stat compiler, basically saying that he was in the league for a long time, so we accumulated a bunch of stats. But I mean, there was a time when he was just dominant, man. He was completely dominant. I remember Nolan Ryan coming in, and everybody felt like it's almost impossible to hit him. He's throwing 100 or whatever, so it's crazy. I think he threw like 102 or 103.
Yeah, and with consistency, that the thing about Nolan Ryan's career too is he wasn't necessarily always on the best team. Didn't have a lot of like World Series and postseason chances with the Rangers.
Mhm.
So there's something to be said about that. If he was like always on a playoff bound team, would that be viewed a little differently? But nonetheless, one of the most dominant starters,
Yeah.
and just has a lot of great stories. I think
Yeah.
everybody knows the infamous headlock, and
I'll put it in right here. We'll cut it right here, then bam.
yeah, cut it in now.
Look at this.
That was one of the greatest moments in MLB history. Don't ever charge the mound to Nolan Ryan.
On
Don't-
Nolan Ryan, absolutely not. So we have to have Nolan Ryan in our starting rotation. And again, the numbers say it, right? With the card values on his rookie card, like he is sought after in the hobby. So
Sure.
just a really good guy to have leading up the rotation. Number 2 starter for us. We're only going to pick 2. I know there's always a lot of great starters, but we're picking it with the top 2. We're leaving it to you in the comments to let us know where we could have added a few starters. But we're going to go here with Mr. Roger Clemens.
Yep.
Here you could see this is his 1984 Fleer rookie card. He has another rookie card, I believe, with Topps as well, but based on comps, you could see this one selling for a little bit more. This particular one I found went for about $1,500 in a PSA 10. So Roger Clemens is an interesting story because clearly dominant career. I think you'll probably have his WAR. He has one of the highest WARs
he
for a
has
pitcher as well.
139.2 WAR. I might go on a limb here. He might be the greatest pitcher in the history of baseball. Like the stuff he has 7 Cy Youngs, an MVP, 2 triple crowns. What's a triple crown for a pitcher? I don't know. 11-time All-Star, 2 World Series, 7 ERA titles. Man, he got almost 5,000 strikeouts, 4,900 strikeouts, 3.12 ERA. Yo, Roger Clemens.
That's the thing. If you just keep adding to the resume, and it's just the resume's getting longer and longer. What more do you need to say?
Obviously, right? We know what's the problem is the steroids.
Right.
That's what's the issue right now. So maybe he was great because of the steroids. I mean, there's an argument there, but looking at these numbers, he's one of the greatest pitchers of our generation.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So listen, we're starting out with the 1980s team. We were born in that decade, so we felt like this would be a sweet spot for us to just get started. We're going to continue to build this out, but you let us know in the comments where Roger Clemens stands in the all-time pitching list. But for us, he's going to make our top 2 starters for the 1980s All MLB decade team. Let's start out with the catcher position. What we'll do is start out with Mr. Gary Carter to catch these wonderful pitchers that we have. You can see here he has one of those interesting rookie cards as well where there's multiple players on it, but this is recognized as one of his true rookies. His 1975 Topps rookie card went in a PSA 9 recently for about $765. So nothing to sneeze at. Even though you have 3 other players who no one's probably ever heard of on the rookie card, but that's just how good Gary Carter was.
Yeah, he carried the rest of them. Whatever, it is what it is. He had about it says 70 WAR here, 324 home runs, 11-time All-Star, 86 World Series winner, 3 times Gold Gloves, 3-time Gold Glove, 5-time Silver Slugger. But yeah, he definitely has a lot of. He's definitely one of the greatest catchers in the 80s for sure.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, hands down, he's one of the best in that decade, if not the best. We'll leave it to you in the comments if there's someone else you'd put above Gary Carter. But the 80s and the Mets, we know about the 80s and the Mets. They were dominant, World Series, and he was a big part of it. I was actually surprised looking up some of the stats on Gary Carter on just how great he was. I kind of had him a little underrated in my mind, but looking at the accolades, there's no question he was one of the top catchers. So that's the man for the job to catch these wonderful relievers and starters that we have. Now we go into the outfield. Let's take a look at who we have. Let's start out with none other than left field. We have Mr. Rickey Henderson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what can you say here, man? Rickey Henderson is an absolute legend.
Absolute legend. I mean, this is his 1980 Topps rookie card. And if you take a look at this particular card, if you can get this thing to Gem Mint 10 in a PSA, you can get upwards of about $450, maybe $500. I think these cards, because of, when they were made, there's still probably quite a bit printed. But if you can get a copy that can get a Gem Mint 10 grade, it sells for good money. And there's no, there's a great reason why. The guy is one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, the reason is he has 111 WAR.
111 WAR, and I don't even know how many stolen bases, right?
1,406 stolen bases. He has an MVP, 10-time All-Star, Gold Glove, 2-time World Series winner, 3-time Silver Slugger. So he could hit. It wasn't just that he was fast; he could hit too.
And he was a leadoff hitter, and I think if I'm not mistaken, he might be up there, or maybe have the record for the most leadoff home runs too. He went up there swinging.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you just get on first base and everyone knows you're stealing and they still can't get you. I mean,
that's exactly right. I mean, and that's something, we talk about with sports today, how stolen bases are down and it's kind of a lost art in the game. Yeah. But Ricky Henderson is one of those people that you have to admire, because it was just, he played so long and he played at a high level, and he always, every single highlight I saw of Ricky Henderson, he was always playing like 110%, always bringing. Let's slide over to center field, Mr. Dale Murphy. And another card, which is an interesting rookie card, because again, we have 3 other gentlemen that are joining Mr. Dale Murphy on his rookie card. This is the 1977 Topps rookies. And this particular card in a PSA 9 goes for roughly the same price as actually Ricky Henderson. About $470 was a recent comp that we saw on this Dale Murphy card. But really someone I didn't look into too much beforehand, but I was really surprised to see how great of a player he was during the 80s.
Yeah, he had again, some people don't like WAR. I'm going by WAR because that just seems to be the accepted thing here, and at least in our day and age now. But he had a 46.5 WAR, so it's a little low. Mm-hmm. But again, he had almost 400 home runs, which is pretty impressive. 2-time MVP, 7-time All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves, and 4 Silver Sluggers. So he definitely he definitely could hit the ball and field the ball. So, I mean, he's definitely a great choice.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what everyone thinks in the comments. But within the decade of the 80s, there's no denying Dale Murphy was in his sweet spot and was one of the most dominant center fielders of the time. And I know probably his whole career, he didn't have the whole WAR to build up to probably Hall of Fame resume, but during the 80s, he had a real dominant stretch. So we decided to go with Mr. Dale Murphy here for our center field position. Next up, we have right field, and this was a tough one. But we ended up going with Mr. Dave Winfield. Dave Winfield, everyone knows, has played with several teams, has a really long career, great resume. He had a 1974 Topps rookie card, and it is sought after, and you can get one of the comps I saw on the highest grade was a PSA 8, and it went for about $361. Wasn't able to see anything higher than that, so, be curious to see what that would go for if it got like a PSA 9 or PSA 10. Yeah. But one of the most, well-respected players of multiple generations, to be honest. We're just talking 80s here. Yeah. So this is the man for the job for our right field position, Mr. Dave Winfield.
Yeah, he was pretty popular with the Yankees, beloved, and with the Yankee fans, I know that. He got about 64 WAR, 465 home runs, 12-time All-Star, 92 World Series, 7-time Gold Glove, 6-time Silver Slugger, and he's a Hall of Famer. So you can't get much better than that, man.
Can't get much better than that. If you guys think of a better right fielder during the 80s decade, let us know. But we feel really confident with Dave Winfield playing right field for us. Let's start out with first base. Don Mattingly.
Yeah.
And that is his 1984 Topps rookie card, where if you could get it to a PSA 10 Gem Mint, can get upwards of 900 to 950 in that condition. So this one, I'll be honest with you, surprised me in terms of the amount of the price that it sold for. And because, you think of the 80s, you start to associate it with junk wax era, but I know there's quite a few of these out there. But if you could get that copy in a PSA 10, it's a big deal.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's also he played for the Yankees. He's a Yankee legend,
Right.
So that helps the value as well. And what also helps his value, in my opinion, is that there is some discussion if he will make the Hall of Fame. There's still debate, it's going back and forth. He's still eligible, right? Or is there another way he could get in? I don't know. I've heard that there's talks that there's a way that Don Mattingly could be in Cooperstown one day.
Yeah, I know that he's been obviously not quite where he needs to be to get in the Hall, but it's an interesting debate. I know there's people sort of really 50-50 on where Don Mattingly belongs, if he belongs in the Hall or if he doesn't belong in the Hall. Let us know in the comments. That's a great one for the comments too, because
I'm looking at his stats right now real fast, man, and fans might not like what I say, Yankee fans, but I mean, he has a 42.4 WAR. He has 222 home runs. Mm-hmm. RBIs 1,099. Stolen bases 14. Oh wow, he didn't steal at all. And
he was a first baseman. He's a first baseman, man. What do you want?
That's like a steal a year. Anyway, and then he got 2,153 hits, so over 2,000 hits. So he didn't even hit the 3,000 hit mark. He got an MVP, 6 All-Stars, 9 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Sluggers, a batting title. He got a bunch and a Manager of the Year, but that's after. I mean, it's a very good career, but my opinion is that you got to take the fandom out of it. And I know you're a Yankee fan, so I don't think he's definitely the 90. He definitely belongs on this team because he was a beast in the 80s.
Yeah,
but career-wise, I don't know if he belongs in the Hall.
Yeah, listen, it's a fair point. I think you can look to the intangibles and stuff, but I'm not arguing for it. I definitely see both sides, but for sure, are people trying to give him a bump maybe because of the Yankees? Well, let's leave it to everybody in the comments. I mean, is Don Mattingly or is he not a Hall of Famer? All we know is that for the 1980s, he was a terrific player and one of the best first basemen, if not the best first baseman during that decade. So we have him as our starting first baseman for our all MLB team. Our second baseman is going to be someone who Omar and I talked about might be somewhat underrated. That is Mr. Ryne Sandberg. Mm-hmm. So Ryne Sandberg here has his 1983 Fleer rookie card. And this particular card in the PSA 10 goes for roughly $280 based on some recent comps on eBay. This one was surprising to me only because I remember how great of a player he was for a consistent amount of time, usually at the upper echelons of the second base position throughout his career. And it was really surprising to see how low the value was on his rookie card.
I mean, he's a great player. 67, pretty much a 68 WAR, 282 home runs, which is, I guess, a little low. 2,386 hits. He's an MVP, a 10-time All-Star, home run derby champion, 9-time Gold Glove, 7-time Silver Slugger. So, I mean, he definitely had the number, and 344 stolen bases. But anyway, yeah, he definitely had the numbers. And they say the number when it comes to WAR, if you're going to get into the Hall of Fame, which is a good predictor or whatever, is about 70. So he had 67.9. So his numbers show that he definitely was worthy to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think the number I heard was about 60. Maybe you're saying 70. So yeah. I mean, someone could let us know.
I think 70 is kind of like a shoe in. Like you're in. Once you hit 70, you're in. So
yes, you need 60 to even be like in the conversation, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But nonetheless, I mean, the 80s are synonymous with Sandberg at second base. He was just a phenomenal player. And you read stolen bases. I mean, just all around, he hit home runs. So coming from the second base position, anyone would sign up for someone who could hit home runs and steal bases and hit for average.
Yeah, I just think what hurts his value maybe in the PSA 10 is just the name value. You know what I'm saying? It's not. Look at Don Mattingly. Probably didn't have a better career, but he's just Don Mattingly. Gets that's the card game in a nutshell.
Yeah, look at that, right? One is a Hall of Famer, one is struggling to get into Hall of Fame, but selling for 3 times the
Yeah.
price automatically than Ryan Sandberg. So just an interesting one. Let us know what you think about why does Ryan Sandberg not get enough love in the hobby. And we need a shortstop that's going to hold it down for us as well. So we are going with none other than Mr. Cal Ripken Jr. Cal
Yeah.
Ripken Jr. There's not much that needs to be said about how great he was. This is his 1982 Topps rookie card. If you can get this thing in a fantastic condition, PSA 10, you're looking upwards of about $4,500. So interesting. You and I talked about this. The disparity between Cal Ripken Jr.'s rookie card PSA 10 price, who was a shortstop, and possibly the best second baseman of the same decade in a PSA 10, Ryan Sandberg. And look at the big value difference, right?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, but again, it goes down to the name value too. You talk about Cal Ripken Jr. He was such a powerful figure in baseball. Obviously, the Iron Man, 2,000 plus games played. I think that's one of the things that are never going to be broken, in my opinion. One of the streaks ever. I think I actually remember the game that he stopped or whatever. I remember the game, watching it. The game that he actually broke the streak. And then they put the numbers on the brick wall or whatever. And
exactly.
Yeah. So so let's just talk about his stats real quick. Yeah, like a 96 WAR, 431 home runs, 3,184 hits, 2-time MVP, Rookie of the Year, 19-time All-Star, 83 World Series champion, 2 Gold Gloves, 8 Silver Sluggers. Yeah, just it's incredible. I mean, there's no other shortstop that should be considered. Again, I want to hear what the comments say, but I don't think that any other shortstop should be considered for this team.
Yeah, we'll have a couple honorable mentions at the end, but this was a real easy one for us. And just interesting, the hobby saying it too, right? I mean, for over $4,000 for a PSA 10 in Cal Ripken Jr.'s rookie card. There's a lot of allure with him breaking, Lou Gehrig, who's another Legends record, and I think that's also a huge part of it. But well deserved. I mean, he's created a record that I agree with you will likely never be broken. So that's going to be our shortstop. We are going to round this team out with Mr. Mike Schmidt. And funny enough, of course, we have another card where we have some other strangers on it with him, but this is recognized as a rookie card for Mr. Mike Schmidt. This is his 1973 Topps card. If you can get it in a PSA 8 condition, you're looking at a clean $1,000. And I don't know what a PSA 9 or 10 would sell for, but it'd be great to see that. Let us know in the comments if you know what that value looks like. But still, PSA 8 would be a great condition, and you're looking at $1,000 for one of the best third basemen, not only of the 80s but of all time.
I think I was about to say, I think he might be the best third baseman of all time. He has 106.8 WAR, 548 home runs, 2,234 hits. He got 3-time MVP, 12-time All-Star, 1980s World Series, 10-time Gold Gloves, 6 Silver Sluggers, and a World Series MVP. I'm telling you, man, this guy right here, I've heard of him. Again, I was younger and stuff like that. His numbers are crazy. 548 home runs. Oh, come on. That's another person I think that is a perfect third baseman for the 1980 team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was an easy one for us, and we just said, you know what, like third base is a premium position, and to have someone who has the glove and has that bat, we could not have Mike Schmidt. And again, there are some really good players, obviously, and great players in the 80s, but Mike Schmidt was our choice hands down. So
10 Gold Gloves, man.
10 Gold Gloves, over 500 home runs. But again, obviously that was over the course of his career. Yeah. But even within the decade of the 80s, he was a dominant player. So we're really happy to have Mike Schmidt playing third base for us in our decade team. We need a manager that can hold it down, that's going to lead these guys to the chip. And the manager we decided on, although there were many great managers in the 80s, is none other than Mr. Tommy Lasorda. And Mr. Tommy Lasorda, you could see here, Obviously, he was older when he was managing, so his card is actually very vintage. It goes back to 1954. This is his Topps rookie card. And obviously, he was a player at that point. He was a pitcher for the Brooklyn Dodgers. If you could get this card in about a PSA 5 condition, you're looking at about a $430 value for recent comps. I was pretty young, but I remember a lot of great memories with Tommy Lasorda, him walking onto the field, the way he had the uniform, like he looked like he wanted to go out there and play. He looked just like a player when he was dressed, right?
And he hated mascots too, I remember.
Yeah, he hated the mascots.
He was always fighting the mascots. What's interesting about him, I'm looking at his baseball reference. He actually had a negative 1.3 WAR for his baseball career. So
as a player. So, you know, if you can't play, I guess you manage. he was a hell of a manager though. So I definitely would feel good with him running the team. Absolutely. So that's going to be our manager. Now that we have this, we need you to let us know in the comments, who would you replace? And before you do that, take a look who we have as our honorable mentions. Let's start off with our relievers and our pitchers. Our starters, we can't forget Steve Carlton, who was really dominant in the 80s. Great pitcher. He was a lefty. And also Jack Morris. So both of these pitchers were fantastic pitchers. I think that both are Hall of Famers, if I'm not mistaken. And they're just fabulous pitchers. But again, we would put Nolan Ryan and Roger Clemens ahead of these two guys.
Yeah, they're both Hall of Famers.
Our reliever that we really wanted to acknowledge was Dennis Eckersley. And it was interesting because I know Dennis Eckersley actually started as a starter in the major leagues and then turned into a reliever. So when you look at his stats for the 80s, he actually was sort of towards the second half of the 80s when he became a reliever. So, you know, when you look at the duration of the entire decade, that's what kind of made him not make the cut for us. But still a fantastic reliever, one of the greats of all time in that regard, but still someone we wanted to recognize as an honorable mention. The outfield. So for us, we have in left field, Mr. Tim Raines. Everybody knows he was a speedster. I think you might be able to attest to this too. He was one of those, you know, controversial Hall of Fame picks.
Yeah, I mean, WAR-wise, I mean, he was 69. I know people in the comments are gonna be like, "Oh, Omar talks about WAR only." No, I'm just doing it because that's cybermetrics. Everybody loves that stuff now. So I'm just, you know, that's kind of, again, that they say that's the best way to summarize a person's career in nowadays is their WAR. He had a 69.4 WAR, 170 home runs, 980 RBIs. I mean, that's definitely controversial there. 2,605 hits.
I mean, speed was a big part of his game. Stolen bases.
Oh yeah, he had 808 stolen bases.
Yeah. So, and he was a really good defender. I'm not sure if he won any Gold Gloves.
No Gold Gloves.
Okay. So, you know, there's cases to be made, but for the 80s, Tim Raines was a really great left fielder. Yeah. So obviously not at the level of Ricky Henderson in our opinion, but we still wanted to acknowledge him as an honorable mention. You let us know in the comments if there's someone else we missed out here in the honorable mentions for left field. Center field, one of my favorite players just because of so many highlights, him jumping and really hustling all the time, and just a solid all-around hitter, consistent, was Mr. Kirby Puckett in center. One of the Minnesota Twins greats. I know his career got cut short a little bit as well, but nonetheless a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, definitely a Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star, 6 Gold Gloves, 2 World Series, 6 Silver Sluggers, batting title, ALCS MVP. Yeah, definitely deserves that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Have to recognize Kirby Puckett is one of the great center fielders of all time, especially in the 80s. So makes our honorable mention list. On right field, 2 names. Both are not in the Hall of Fame. Dwight Evans and Darryl Strawberry. So, you know, Darryl Strawberry, obviously a Met legend, played some great seasons with the Yankees. I believe he won 3 World Series rings. But if everybody knows, in the 80s, he was one of the most feared hitters in the game and had tremendous power. So someone to just recognize in terms of being an honorable mention. Dwight Evans was someone I didn't know too much about, but in doing research, he had some really great seasons in the 80s, and that was sort of his peak. I just don't think he had the longevity when you look at career-wise to make the Hall of Fame.
I mean, He was pretty good, man. I didn't know this guy.
Yeah, he led the league in a lot of things in the 80s.
Yeah, he had a 67.2 WAR, 385 home runs, 2,446 hits,
Right.
1,300 RBIs, 3-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glove. Man, like, to be honest, some of the people that are in the Hall of Fame, he's got better numbers than them. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, you could educate us in the comments a little bit more about Dwight Evans. Is there some drama there? Like, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? But still, you could see he had a great decade in the 80s. So someone that we definitely recognizing here in our honorable mention team.
I'm about to buy his rookie card, man.
You might be able to get it for a good deal.
Yeah.
Next up, let's go with the infield. We'll start out at the catcher position, Mr. Carlton Fisk. So Carlton Fisk is obviously infamous for his home run shot, right, where he's like calling it to go fair.
Yeah. That was nice.
That's an iconic highlight. One of the
versus
best
the Yankees, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Hey, why you have to throw that in? Fantastic baseball memory. One of the more dominant catchers as well of the decade, but not quite, at Gary Carter's level for us. So he makes our honorable mention team. Next up, we're gonna go with our hot corners. We are going to go third base and first base. Honorable mention is Wade Boggs at third base and Eddie Murray at first base. So kind of start out with Wade Boggs. It goes without saying, one of the most consistent hitters, hits to all fields, and defense was obviously something he was great at. So not taking anything away from Mr. Wade Boggs, but this is where that decision on Mike Schmidt was a tough one. But Wade Boggs, a Hall of Famer and fantastic player throughout his several teams. He was consistent all the way up to when he ended his career. So we really like Wade Boggs as a honorable mention candidate at third base.
Hall of Famer, 91 WAR. 91.4 WAR. He just didn't have much power, 118 home runs, but he has a lot of hardware, so he belongs on this team, as an honorable mention and in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah. I will never forget he was riding the horse with the Yankees World Series in the outfield. That was one of my favorite scenes. Eddie Murray at first base. What more could we say about someone who was one of the best hitters for the longest time? Solid player, played great defense. I mean, he also was very underrated, just in my opinion, because he was one of the best in the league for a long time, and just didn't get a lot of, I think, accolades. But maybe it was because he wasn't necessarily looking for it. He was sort of like quiet in regard to how he operated. But if you look at his stats, it's jaw-dropping.
Yeah, 68.6 WAR. He hit over 500 home runs, so he had power. 1,900 RBIs, Rookie of the Year, 8-time All-Star, 83 World Series, 3-time Gold Glove, 3-time Silver Slugger, and over 3,000 hits.
And let's round out our infield with Mr. Lou Whitaker at second base. He was a fantastic second baseman. Clearly, probably didn't have the longevity of the career, but in the 80s was a fantastic second baseman. We just had him a notch below Ryan Sandberg on our starting team.
And it's interesting with him, again, I guess WAR doesn't tell the whole picture because he has a 75.1 WAR, which is, again, pretty darn high. 244 home runs. He had a Rookie of the Year, 5-time All-Star, 3 Gold Gloves, 84 World Series, and a 4-time Silver Slugger. He has a pretty impressive resume when it comes to baseball, man. But I'm not sure. I guess, again, it wasn't good enough to get into Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's an interesting story with Lou Whitaker. I didn't know much about him, but I knew his stats were very surprising. But I just, I know Ryan Sandberg was the guy for the starting job. But let us know in the comments a little bit more about Lou Whitaker, why he's not in the Hall of Fame. Shortstop, we have two names everybody knows. This is why it was really tough, to pick our shortstop. But we have Robin Yount, and we also need to mention the Wizard, Ozzie Smith, as well, the defensive wizard. We know he was a highlight waiting to happen with his defensive skills, and also had a nice bat, would steal some bases. But I think Robin Yount was a little bit more offensive guy, and Ozzie Smith was more defensive. Yeah,
Robin had a little over 250 home runs, 77 WAR. He had over 3,000 hits, and he's in the Hall of Fame as well.
Yep.
2-time MVP, 3-time All-Star, Gold Glove, and 3 Silver Sluggers. And again, Ozzie Smith, again, he's obviously in the Hall of Fame as well, but he was more known for his defense. He hit 28 home runs his whole career, which is whatever. But 76.9 WAR, and that's impressive because a lot of that came from his glove.
From his glove, yeah.
But he did have over 2,400 hits, so he could. I'm sure he's a slap hitter, to left or right or whatever for singles. And 580 stolen bases, so he did steal as well. 15-time All-Star, 13 Gold Gloves, Silver Slugger, 82 World Series, and an NLCS MVP. So one of the greatest.
Oh, no doubt about it, especially at the shortstop position. What I really like about the stats you just said too is that it goes to show you don't have to always be the prototypical hit home runs to get into the Hall of Fame, because baseball is a lot more than just the home runs, right? So that's a really cool thing, that you could see someone like Ozzie Smith, who could have his defense far kind of outweigh the offense, and he could still be a Hall of Famer and recognized for his greatness. And we do have a manager that is honorable mentions as well. None other than Sparky Anderson of the Detroit Tigers. Had some really, really great interactions and funny interactions with the umpires. So there's some great highlights out there of Sparky Anderson really getting into it with different umpires out there. But one of the great managers out there, just not at the level for us of Tommy Lasorda, just for the decade of the 80s, but still a legend in his own right. And we wanted to make sure we gave him an honorable mention.
Yeah, and it's interesting. He also has a negative 1.2 WAR.
I think that's the requirement for being a great manager.
Yeah, so if you have a negative WAR, just start managing and maybe you do good.
So that is what we have, guys. We put this list together. We would love to hear what you think in the comments. You let us know where we got it right, where we got it wrong, who would you swap where, and we will do more of these in the future. If you like it, just give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We can do some more decades for you. We can do some more sports for you, do basketball, do football, whatever you want. Let us know in the comments, and we'll dig it up and put it together. Thanks for checking us out. Take care.
Peace.
Peace.